Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. The bull market is over. I'm just playing with you. The bull market is not over, but we did see a pretty severe correction for Bitcoin, dumping below the 100K support, which was a huge support level. In today's video, we'll be going over exactly why Bitcoin dumped and how the rest of the altcoin market is getting dragged down. We'll also be taking a look at some potential opportunities to make some significant profits during this downtime. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Let's jump right into the video. Sorry to kick off the video with a little bit of a joke there, but the bull market is not over. Guys, I always talk about zooming out and looking at the bigger picture. Once again, Bitcoin is still pretty close to $100,000, and it's not a sign for concern quite yet. And if we take a closer look at the chart here, we can see that we dumped down significantly, breaking the 100K level, which was a massive area of support. We were holding it as support for several days in a row, and it was honestly looking quite promising for Bitcoin. Now you can see that we are currently at the point of control for this range, meaning that if we are to get a bounce in the short term, it could come directly from here, right around 98 to 98.5K. Now, if we don't get that bounce, the next move I would be looking at would be all the way down to around the 97K area, which we should see a bounce from there. Worst case scenario, we can go and revisit the bottom of this range once again. I know it would be devastating, not just for Bitcoin, but for altcoins. But as we can see, we've kind of been in this range since November 2024. So what you really want to look for here is trying to take advantage of these opportunities, which is why in yesterday's video, I discussed the idea of placing a short on Bitcoin should we breach the 100K area. And let's roll the clip just so you know I'm not making this up. And the only time that I would actually start getting worried and potentially start favoring shorts in the market would be hitting below $100,000. Now you may think this is crazy, but 100K has started to hold up very well. And so if we are to breach that level, I think we could see some significant gains on a short from 100K back down to the range lows, closer to the low 90K levels. Now don't worry yet because and I went on to say to not worry yet because Bitcoin seemed like it was holding 100K, but the reality is no one can really predict the markets, which is why I tried to prepare you guys in advance for entering a short around the 100K area. Now, if you want to take any of the trades that I talk about on this channel to try and make some significant profits, whether the market moves up or down, I would highly recommend that you sign up to Weeks, which is the first link in my description. You can get a $20,000 bonus, and with my link, you also get 50% off the trading fees. And you'll notice that when you click on a link, all you really need to sign up is an email and a password. It's as easy as that. First link down below. And back to Bitcoin. So as I said, in the short term, it is possible that we continue to move on lower, although this could be a potential area of support. As you can see, we wicked down here several times before bouncing and moving higher. And your question might be, why did we dump? Well, we saw that on Friday, Trump officially imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico as well as China, and Canada came out with a response on this. Let's see what Trudeau had to say.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the US trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
And then he goes on to talk about what actually gets affected by these tariffs, but you get the idea. We're kind of seeing this trade war starting to play out, and naturally, the markets don't like this kind of uncertainty because we also saw that the S&P 500 saw a significant drawdown as well. So in terms of trading this market, it's quite nice because you can book some solid profits, but in terms of holding spot bags, it is very tricky because as we keep on seeing, altcoins continue to bleed. And on that note, I will have to bring up Bitcoin dominance once again. Now, we've talked about this thesis for several weeks now. I did not think that the Bitcoin dominance uptrend was quite done. Now, of course, down here, we saw some nice gains for altcoins because Bitcoin started giving back some of that liquidity to the altcoin market. But as we expected and rightfully pointed out mid-November, we were going to see a reverse to the upside by Bitcoin dominance. Now, once again, my expectation is to perhaps make a double top or even making a new all-time high for Bitcoin dominance. And the main reason for this, which I'm not seeing a lot of crypto guys talk about, is monetary policy has stayed the same. We are still in quantitative tightening. The only true analyst that has actually talked about this in depth would be Benjamin Cowan, and I'll actually wrap up the video with one of his tweets that discusses the potential moves for Bitcoin as it relates to the unemployment rate. But anyways, I've made it abundantly clear that my expectation is that Bitcoin dominance will likely move on higher. And as it pertains to Solana against Ethereum, we talked about this yesterday as well. I still think that Solana will bleed to Ethereum as I start to expect some outperformance from Ethereum. But the only issue here when talking about Solana and Ethereum is that Ethereum can still outperform Solana if the market goes down, which is not what we want. Ideally, this thesis runs on the basis that the crypto market is going up and Ethereum is just performing better than Solana in that light. But if the market continues to nuke towards the range lows, as I said, I'm expecting Ethereum to outperform Solana. So either way, at this point, I would favor holding Ethereum over Solana. And if we take a look at others, which is the crypto market cap excluding the top 10, we can see that we broke what was historically a pretty strong support level right around $3.25 billion. And it wouldn't surprise me if we were to come back a little bit lower to the $250 billion range, especially if Bitcoin continues to go lower and destroy altcoins. In my opinion here, this isn't the time to be scared, but rather the time to be analyzing how your altcoins are doing against Bitcoin. The nature of the market is based on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin nukes, the rest of the market will nuke, but if Bitcoin goes up, it can likely drag the rest of the market. So that being said, we can't necessarily control what Bitcoin does, and that's why I'm always trying to trade it. But as it pertains to altcoins, if you're out there trying to chase the best possible gains, you have to evaluate your altcoin against Bitcoin. And the altcoins that are holding up very well against Bitcoin are likely to be the best possible altcoins that you want to be allocated into when the market turns back to the upside. So always keep that in mind. Make sure you're measuring your altcoins against Bitcoin. If we take a look at the total crypto market cap, we can see that we broke this support level, and now it's kind of looking like we're going to go back and revisit the $3 trillion level. But again, I'll remind you, it's great to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Look how much higher we are. We are all the way up here and we're just kind of ranging around. But I do think that we will see a move to the upside in 2025. So make sure you prepare yourself for this because it will happen in my honest opinion. And something else that goes along with my thesis about Ethereum outperforming Solana here is the fact that I couldn't agree more with what Miles is saying, and I think that this really plays into the whole meme coin liquidity suck. The industry was way better before Pump Fund. Ironically, there's more innovation now than ever, but it's obfuscated by constant rotation games. And yes, I play these games to make money like everyone else, but that's the issue. We've been forced to become JEETs and not investors, and I couldn't agree more. As you know on this channel, I have my fair share of speculating in the trenches and trying to spot potential 10x's. But if you don't take profits quick enough on those, you just see that coin dump and liquidity go to the next coin. Now, it's been a constant game of rotation, and it doesn't seem like investors have been getting rewarded for holding solid projects, such as all the ones that we talked about from World Liberty Financial Holding and BlackRock, etc. All the big institutions here are zooming out and looking at the bigger picture and only really accumulating solid projects. But then we have us in the trenches trying to outplay everyone else, and it's a recipe for disaster. The reality is here, everyone is just trying to front run altcoin season, and had you held Bitcoin from the bear market lows, you would have earned pretty much the best possible return, also while minimizing your downside risk and also while minimizing your stress. So remember that for the next bull market, because I know that I will be playing my cards a little bit differently. And a continued thought here in regards to Ethereum versus Solana, here's some actual data. It's interesting to see that liquidity is flowing back into Ethereum from Solana. So we can see that this chart does resonate with what's actually happening in terms of liquidity. And if we take a look here, we can see that Sol has bridged 4 times more capital to Ethereum than Ethereum has bridged to Solana over the past 24 hours. This is very significant as liquidity leaves Solana and enters Ethereum. Now, the only thing we really need here for Ethereum to really start picking up is Bitcoin consolidating above the 106K level, which we discussed on this channel multiple times. We failed after something like 8 attempts to try to break it and hold it as support. So keep that level in mind as it pertains to Ethereum and the rest of the altcoin market, because if Bitcoin doesn't show any strength, neither will altcoins. And I thought this was interesting, comparing the sentiment in January 2021 to the sentiment now. The question was, is altcoin season canceled? And it was the exact same sentiment back then. So this guy says it couldn't be more obvious, but honestly, you're lying if you're saying that this cycle was easy to play out, because you could try to front run altcoins in the previous cycles. This time around, you don't seem to be getting rewarded for those efforts. But as we can see here, these are a bunch of tweets from January 2021. No alt season this time, so dump the garbage while you still can. There is no alt season. Dead cat bounce for alts. Alts are going to die. There will be no alt season. It seems that there will be no alt season this year. only Bitcoin season. Bitcoin has doubled in price with no alt season. Maybe alt season is a myth, and so on and so forth. You get the point. But this is typically when things start to turn around, when everyone on the feed is bearish. Because keep in mind, the market makers are also looking at this kind of stuff. And this was said perfectly. Can you imagine if the cycle top is in and all of crypto Twitter got it correct? The most expert top callers in history all gathered here together. Do you really think this is the case? I don't know about you, but when I go on my X account and I scroll my feed, everyone is talking about the top being in. And I still don't think that this is the case. Like honestly, if you just look at Bitcoin, it looks as healthy as ever. It just got its highest monthly close ever, and people are freaking out, particularly because the altcoin market is struggling. And this just shows that everyone's capital is really heavily allocated into altcoins, which is the number one thing that you shouldn't do in crypto. We seem to have forgot that basic rule of holding most of your portfolio in Bitcoin. So once again, this is something crucial that you always need to have in the back of your head. So what happens next? What can we expect for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market, and how will we progress? I think Benjamin Cowan does an excellent job of talking about this. Let's see what he has to say. I think decision time for Bitcoin will be next week following the release of the labor market data. If the unemployment rate is 4.1% or 4.2%, then there is a higher probability that Bitcoin will follow blueprint from last year and go higher in February and March, which is in line with the right translated cycle. If the employment rate is too much higher, then it could make Bitcoin a little bit more unsure. If the employment rate is too much lower, it could make yields explode higher again. So I think that there is a sweet spot. Let's see what happens. And honestly, I don't think there's a better way to say this. We have seen Bitcoin rally up until we get the unemployment rate data, kind of consolidate beforehand. And then if the data is positive, we go ahead and continue our trajectory higher. But if the data is negative in any way, shape, or form, the market will likely dump. Now, I still don't think that the bull market is over. I need to make that extremely clear. But if you want to take opportunities of these dips and you don't just want to be accumulating in your spot bags, I would highly recommend that you start to trade the markets, especially when we're chopping around, because it's a great opportunity to cash in some profits while things kind of stay stagnant. And once again, if you do want to be trading these markets, make sure to sign up to Weeks with my link down below. You also get a $20,000 bonus and a 50% off your trading fees. And that sums up today's video. Bitcoin just dumped below 100K, and as we discussed, it was a perfect opportunity to enter a short, specifically because it was a very crucial support level for Bitcoin. Now, this dump seems to have occurred because of the whole trade wars thing between Canada and US and other countries. But the really important data that's coming out this week will be the unemployment rate, and to me that will likely determine where the market is headed next, and I will make sure to keep you updated on that. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.